Hero of the Rails. It was summer on Sodor. The sky was bright blue, the field was full of flowers, and the birds sang sweetly. As Thomas filled up with water, he felt very happy. Suddenly, there was a whoosh and a wheesh and a cluckety-clack. A streak of silver roared by on the track. All over Sodor, Thomas's friends were buffeted and blasted on the track. Later, Thomas and his friends were at Knapford. They were very puzzled, and Spencer steamed smugly away. That afternoon, Thomas and Percy were huffing and puffing up Gordon's Hill. Then they heard Spencer whooshing and wheeshing behind them. Next, Spencer caught up with Gordon. Toby was huffing slowly to a junction. Spencer steamed alongside, hooting and tooting. Toby gasped. He was upset. He missed his green light. Edward and James were chuffing cheerfully along. Spencer slowed, and Spencer thundered away. James was so cross he couldn't puff at all. That night, the engines could only talk about Spencer. The next day, Thomas was at Brandon Docks. He had a heavy flatbed of machinery to collect. Spencer was there. He was being coupled up to 5 flatbeds of building materials. Thomas was upset, and so were the other engines. This time, Spencer had gone too far. The Sodor engines didn't scare Spencer. An idea bubbled in his boiler. Spencer slid slyly out of the docks. Suddenly, Thomas felt very worried. The other engines saw that their friend was worried. Thomas looked at his best friend Percy. Percy believed him. Early the next morning, in the cold light of dawn, Thomas and his friends waited for Spencer. They could see a streak of They could see a streak of silver engine puffing towards them. It was Spencer. Thomas felt worried. The tracks were cleared for Spencer and Thomas, and both engines were hobbled up to their heavy loads. Edward rolled over. Then Edward whistled long and hard. The contest had begun. Spencer and Thomas pumped their pistons. Thomas puffed off with a heave and a huff. Spencer smiled as he slid away. The other engines watched and worried. Then they blew the whistle long and strong. Thomas and Spencer puffed around the island. They clickety-clacked along the tracks. They whooshed through woods and huffed up hills. Spencer steamed and smiled. He raced. He roared. Thomas puffed and huffed. He heaved and he hailed. Thomas was puffing up a steep slope. He was puffing and panting, and his axles ached. At last, he reached the top. Then, there was trouble. There was a clang and a prang. Thomas gasped. His wheels started to whir and wobble. He flew faster and faster down the hill. Thomas raced up one hill and rattled down the next. Thomas's heavy freight car pushed him on and on for a junction where Spencer was waiting, and into some potato cars. Potatoes bounced everywhere. But Thomas sped onto a flatbed of jelly barrels. Sticky jelly flew in the air and landed all over Thomas. But he still went on and found himself rolling on an old rickety track ahead. Thomas could see thick wall bushes. With a scrunch and a crunch, Thomas crashed into the bushes and came into a stop. Thomas looked around. After the racing and rattling, it was very quiet. Everything was quiet. Thomas didn't know what to do. Then he heard a voice. Thomas looked around. There was no one there. He waited, hardly daring to puff. Thomas looked around again. He couldn't see anyone. Very slowly, Thomas chuffed forward into the bushes. The branches crackled and crunched, and then Thomas gasped. His eyes popped wide with wonder. There, on the other side of the bushes, was a very old engine. It was rusty and broken. Thomas was scared. He didn't dare speak. Then the old engine smiled at him. It was a little frightened smile, but it made the old engine look kind and gentle. It made Thomas feel less scared. The old engine smiled again. Thomas wanted to smile too, but he was scared. He didn't know whether to speak, toot for help, or race backwards as fast as he can chuff. But Thomas didn't move. He couldn't take his eyes off this extraordinary engine. Thomas wasn't sure what to say next. He never met an engine as old and strange as Hero. Thomas was amazed. Thomas's eyes were wide with wonder. Thomas was surprised. Thomas could see that his new friend, who was once master of the railway, was now old, alone, and scared. So Thomas made a decision. Hero smiled the biggest smile he had smiled in a long time. Thomas puffed with pride. Later that morning, Thomas was at the Sodor Steamworks. He was having his brakes fixed. Thomas liked the steamworks. There was hustle and bustle, sparks and spanners. It was lively and friendly. And there was Victor. Thomas liked Victor. Thomas had almost forgotten about the contest with Spencer. His boiling was bubbling excitement over Hero. He wanted to tell Victor, but he knew he couldn't. Other engines might hear and might tell Sir Topham Hatt. Spencer was amazed. He wasn't expecting Thomas to be cheery. Spencer was shocked. Then Spencer slid away, sneering. Thomas laughed like he liked Victor. Behind Kevin, Thomas saw something very interesting. A wagon with an old piston cylinder on it. Thomas puffed away excitedly.